Doesn't work very good.
Thanks, Timmy.
Have a good night, fellas and ladies.
Barb, I don't know if you can clean these up, but Kenny's listed twice in the being present.
I'll take care of that.
There's a note on here about Mrs. Hendrickson completing the final submission of the safety grant data for us. Did she do that, or did we use what she had put together? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve both the open and closed meeting notes from December 2nd.
I'll second that. So a motion by Esser and a second by Drury to approve the minutes from December 2nd, open and closed session. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item here is approval of current expenses and vouchers payable. And Bryce, do you have anything on there you want us to take a look at, or?
No, not in particular.
Shimmick here, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Mitchick.
So we have a motion by Shimmick and a second by Mitchick to approve the current expenses and vouchers payable. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next item here is public appearances before the board, not for action. Anybody have anything, Josh? Is there anybody online?
Nobody's online, so
Okay.
it's speaking to me.
All right, if not, we'll go on to announcements and reports. And the first item here is the principal's report.
All right. Bradley, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to have Brad, just to give you all an update. High school wrestling has changed actually pretty dramatically since the beginning of the year, from how much they can wrestle and who can be at an event. So they have something going now for a postseason. So I'm gonna have Brad just explain that. He can explain it better than I can. So Brad, explain what it's gonna look like as far as we know today.
So as we know today, Lancaster will be the host site for regionals, and that will be on January 30th. We don't know yet if there's going to be spectators or not. WIA hasn't actually released anything on that. And then the next weekend would be sectionals, and Mineral Point is set to host that. And again, we don't know about spectators. So usually we take the top 2 place winners and regionals go on to sectionals. And in the past, it's been the top 3 from sectionals that have gone on to state. It looks like this year, the top 2 from D2 and D3 sectionals will go on to state, and they'll just have an 8-man bracket. They haven't came out and said how those 8-man brackets will work as far as how many matches you'll get guaranteed. So we're still waiting for that. I know they had a sports advisory meeting today, the WIA did. So hopefully we will have some feedback from that tomorrow. We usually send an email to ADs what they covered. The thing that's kind of up in the air right now is that there's a lot of D1 schools or regionals and sectionals that don't have sites, host sites. So we're kind of wondering what's going to happen if those D1 schools don't have a site to go to for regionals or sectionals. So that's kind of a question mark right now. So, but as far as the season goes, everything has been working really well. The kids have been wrestling with masks since day 1. And surprisingly, Coach Allen got some masks that go around your head, and when you put your headgear on, they stay on pretty good. So this past week was our first multi-team event. We had 3 other teams there: Riverdale, Ithaca Weston, and Peck Argyle. And that went very well. They've only let senior parents in, and we streamed each mat, and that seemed to work pretty good, I think. And Friday we wrestled 3 more teams. So as far as the season is going, it's going pretty well. I haven't actually heard of too many schools actually having to cancel anything because of wrestling. It's just been, normal kids at school getting it, or contact lists or something. So does anybody have any questions for me on that?
No, that sounds good, Brad. Thanks for the update.
Of course, my computer just died. Can you see everybody on there yet?
Yep.
You good? All right. All right, thanks, Brad. First thing I have on my list is field trips. Some teachers have been asking if it's possible to do some field trips in the spring. My recommendation, if you guys don't like this, just let me know, but I would like to allow that depending on where it is. For example, the 5th grade always does a bike trip every year. It's outside. We can wear masks if we need to. If we want, we can have parents take them to those locations so they're not on the bus, even though they're with that class all day anyway. I'm not going to recommend any trips that we have 2 classes together that go. So if one class wants to go, for example, again, the 5th grade trip, no overnight trips. But I think, if we can do those later this spring, hopefully things are in a lot better place then and like for those kids to be able to do those things. So if you guys have some issues with that or you don't recommend that, just let me know. Anything with that? Okay, we set a prom date for late April. We are going to survey the parents of the seniors and the juniors to see what they would prefer. My preference at this point is to have the junior and senior prom together and have one prom. I would love to be able to do it outside. We'll see, but we'll see what parents want to do. I know There's some parents that don't want that, some students don't want that, they still want to do a regular, if we do a senior prom this year and keep it as a senior prom was brought up. If we do 2 of them, do a junior at one point and a senior one. So different options that we'll put out there, but just so you guys are aware, that is a survey that will be coming out here soon. So any questions on prom?
Josh, my only comment on that is if you're changing it for the future going forward, you may want to survey more than 2 classes of parents,
If we keep it like with seniors, you mean? Yeah, okay.
because that'll impact classes for years to come.
I would rather not. The seniors, if anyone that's had a senior, they have a lot of stuff on their plate their senior year. To add that to it, not that it's a lot of work, I don't think, but it's just, I don't know. We'll see what parents think. Okay. Next time I have a Spanish. As you know, Miss Weber is going to be on maternity leave here in about the middle of February as scheduled right now. We were able to luckily pick up a retired Spanish teacher. However, in order to get her, we had to compensate more than we normally would for a long-term sub. So right now our going rate for long-term sub is $160. We negotiated with her this morning and we have that at $200 a day. I know obviously that's against what we try to do for our long-term subs, but she is a retired teacher of several in Dodgeville for, she's a good teacher. She actually worked with us before Ms. Weber started here, and we're kind of behind the 8 ball. So I think we'd be very lucky to get her. So we're going to recommend that we go with the $200 pay for our Spanish sub.
You couldn't really say, take it or leave it, this is our 160. You don't have another option, so we're kind of stuck with that.
But I think it's still good bang for our buck. I think, like I said, we've had 2 other people that applied for the position. Neither one had any Spanish teaching experience. One that did our student teaching with us graduated, but we called her and she's up north now. She's got a pretty good job. She's not in education, but we couldn't talk her out of coming back down and teaching for us. So if we can keep this one and she agrees with this, I think we're in pretty good shape. So, all righty. Quarantining, it's been brought up several times about what should people do when they get back if they go places. Do they need to quarantine? So, for example, if we require everyone to quarantine after they go someplace, I think we're opening up a problem. I think what we should do is recommend that you quarantine, but not make that something that is required. And the reason I say that is we have athletes, for example, that play club sports year round. So if we close that off now, we have basketball players that play club ball, they're practicing, younger kids, high school kids, middle school kids, they're practicing right now. We have volleyball players that are practicing right now. We have softball players that are practicing right now. We have wrestlers that are practicing right now. So they're going to certain events, and I know some of these events are outside our state. I'll be the first to say my daughter, for example, plays softball in Dubuque a lot. All right. There was volleyball tournaments in Iowa. So, we can recommend all that. These families don't have to tell us a thing. We may not know where they're at. So it's really none of our business. It's outside the school day. It's outside our, what we control as our athletic department. So my opinion, if you guys disagree, definitely speak, but we can recommend it. And I know Sharon is highly recommended and that's her job. And she's done a ton of work and I appreciate her doing that. However, I just don't think we want to make that a requirement that we do to come back to school. If we do, 1, they're not going to tell us, or 2, we're going to have a lot of kids out of school a lot of times. So I just don't think we want to open up that, I don't want to say it's a can of worms, but it could become an issue if we do so. So any questions or anything I missed on that, Mr. Berg?
Well, I just think they'll also, if we required it, they would point out inconsistencies. We've already allowed people to go different places this year, and some people didn't get quarantined. And so if it works out for some, if they can't do it, we're still trying to keep them safe in the building, and we don't think we have too many cases of anything spreading within our walls this year so far.
I think the quarantine for travel makes a lot of sense if your area doesn't have much for COVID and there's real hot spots that people are traveling to, but with the way it is in our state, I don't know that our state is any safer than any other state, and when you cross the state line, that it makes any difference. There's obviously risky activities that you can do here or in other places, and I don't know that a travel quarantine at this point is something that makes a lot of sense.
No, I mean, we do have a family that just came back, they were on vacation and they're volunteer quarantine, great. You know, we get them all to work, we can make it work. But, you know, for example, when we have players that go to the Dells for volleyball tournaments, wrestling tournaments, there's people from all over anyway. So it's, I mean, whether you go there, they come here, you know, in the state, you know, what we're finding out, kids are not spreading, it's more the adults. So I think we're fine with what we're doing and recommend it. And if that, you know, you just go from there. But anything else on that? All right. Update you on volunteers. Right now we have Jake Terrell volunteering with our middle school girls program, and JR Lynchai John Ross is volunteering with our high school basketball boys program. So give you an update on where that's at. Wrestling changes I talked about with Bradley. Summary for the semester grades. As you know, we did a 4-day where anyone that had a D or an F in a class had the opportunity to come in and work with teachers and work on just those classes to get them passing. That turned out to be an absolute godsend for a ton of kids. Our Fs and our Ds at this point are dramatically almost erased compared to where they were before this last week of school. So it turned out really nice, gave kids opportunity to get in here and get stuff done. So I was very, very pleased with the work that the kids did when they came in. Hopefully, we got them off to a good start this third quarter. Hopefully they saw what it takes to pass a class, and they'll roll right along here this third quarter, but it helped a ton for us. Any questions on the end of the semester? All right. Couple thank yous. I want to have a thank you to J&M Building Supply. I want to get that noted in our minutes. Again, this year they volunteer their time to come up here, bring their forklift up and unload all the salt for us every winter. Sometimes they've done that and they got it here and it was 5 to 10 below zero in years. So thank you to those guys. Another thank you to Miss Mitchick. Just as I talk about this, I'll give an update on the sports. Obviously wrestling, we don't schedule that. That's Casey Clausius at Iowa Grant. But as far as the boys basketball and girls basketball, it has been an absolute, every day there's something. For example, this week we're playing 2 teams that weren't on our schedule at the beginning of the year. We lost 6 games that we had to try to reschedule. We picked up Rissa Center, we picked up Seneca, we picked up Argyle, we picked up Kickapoo last night, we picked up, I mean, just a ton of games we're able to pick up, so we're always mixing and matching. We play Fenimore this Friday. So that all has to go through Lynn, all has to get all set up. Boys basketball is the same way, and it's been absolutely crazy. But if it continues, knock on wood, we'll still be able to get 20 plus games for the boys and the girls. So there's kudos to Miss Michigan on the work that she's doing. Student teachers, we have 3 student teachers this spring. We have one in Miss Rummel's room in science, another Abby. We have an intern that you guys know about that's in the kindergarten room for this semester, Miss Bast, Maria. And her name, she just started, her name slips in my mind right now in the first grade. Can you think of it, Barbie?
Allison something.
Allison, I believe, yeah. Allison is working with Miss Roosh in the first grade. So 3 student teachers this semester helping out our teaching staff. First grade for next year is a class that we need to look at probably splitting. So you guys are aware. Beginning of the year, I think there was 24, 25. By next fall, right now, if the numbers stay the same, we'll be at least 27. So it's a good problem to have when we get more numbers in our classrooms. However, 27 for a first grade class is a lot. I want to just thank Ms. Pierrick for all the ton of work that she's done through this COVID stuff, and we were able to split that class and use an intern, use aides, and have her teach in 2 different rooms. But she's worked her tail off, but it's not something I don't think we want to continue with that many kids. So just so you guys know, there may be a recommendation for a first grade teacher for next year if we need to split that class. Last on my list is COVID pay. Do you want to hit that with yours, Mr. Bird? Do you want me to tackle that?
No, I've got that for an action.
Gotcha. All right. And I think that is it for me, unless you have questions.
Anybody have any questions for Josh? Doesn't look like it. So Mr. Bird, you're up.
Just to go along with thank yous, we have, the Village of Highland has given us $1,932.52. It came in right at the end of December, and it is, they received some money somehow and used what they needed to use for the things that they could use it for, and then they donated the rest to the district, which I think is a real positive move on the village part, and we will be sending them a letter of thanks. And maybe I can find out a little bit more about what exactly that money came from, but we do appreciate working with us on that, for sure. Next thing I have is the audit report, audit review, and I've got a bunch of books. I don't know if anybody wants these sent home or going to pick any of these up at school, but just let the office know we get a booklet to you. The audit came through without any issues. We, as in most small schools, all the small schools I've ever been in, they will talk about a couple of things they call findings, and that's always because you're small, segregation of duties. You have like one bookkeeper and, one person that does accounts payable, different things, so it's hard to oversee each other. Also, we prepare our own, we get stuff ready, and the auditing firm does the financial statements, so we hire out for that. We're required to do that. I never understood why that always is in there, because you really can't audit your own books. That's not an audit then, so. But nothing has been out of the ordinary in here. And then they do talk about, in another part of the audit book, they talk about some technical things that we are going to have to do next year, a little bit different, how leases are entered and spoken for. One thing is the activity money, the activity fund 60, those student activity funds, that will be in Fund 21, which is normally the gift fund. And so there's just a few different things that we have to do internally for next year, but both Linda and Barb have done an excellent job on this, and there's no major issues on it. Do you have any questions regarding that, or if you want to review the booklets, and if you have anything you want to discuss next meeting, we could do that. What I also have, if you would click on the expenditures to date, and this is a little snapshot of where we are, which is about as close as we can get to the halfway point of the budget year. So Linda has prepared this and showing the revised, like the budget and how much money in the middle column we've spent year to date, and then percentages of money that we've spent. So for almost all of these entries, we are less than 50% of the money that's budgeted is spent. Now that doesn't mean we're going to have a ton of money left over, because we're halfway there. Like in some of these accounts, we have 27% spent. It just depends sometimes on how the payments or the bills lie in there. And if we had to get classroom supplies or certain things in the beginning of the year, sometimes like the debt payment schedule, those are paid when they're due. So if there's higher debt payment, like that one says 66% is spent, well, that bigger payment was due in the first part of the year. So I was going to have Linda talk about anything in particular she wanted to point out, or in this area. Or if there's no need, I don't know.
I think you covered it pretty well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
One thing I look at is the total budget, teacher payments, salaries and benefits. All staff pretty much make up the entire budget. And if we look at that, we've paid approximately 12 out of 26 payrolls, which is approximately 46%. So, and if you can see those areas like the first and second, third, fourth lines there, that is basically teacher salary and benefits, and they're all in the 40%. And so as I look at it, we're pretty much right on target there.
And so we'll get more detail, as the year goes on, and then we will start looking at if there is money to, how much money possibly may be freed up to do any maintenance projects this spring and into the summer. We will then, I don't know if you usually have that building and grounds meeting in February or March to identify some projects, and then it all depends on how much money may or may not be available. And so that depends on, how the year goes, and we can rule out some costs and some variables. So, we will work on doing that. And one other thing that I was going to just briefly talk about, but I didn't write it down. Oh, I know what it was, summer school. Summer school may depend on, how I want to do this. We may, there's some things in play with summer school. We may not, we may want to wait and not have it in the beginning of the summer. We may want to have it a little later in the summer. Like, for example, if we were to, later in June or early July or mid-July, we could not have to wear masks if that happens. I mean, if we schedule it, we normally have a week off and schedule it right away. Maybe too soon. It'd be nicer to wait possibly and have a no mask summer school. Also, it may be smart just to give everybody a break, students, staff, and parents. I guess parents, kids, they don't get a break if the kids aren't in summer school, but it might be smart just to have that break. And also, comments at one of the staff meetings this week with the elementary, they said that some of those teachers did like the having some summer school in August to get kids kind of jump started into the year. And this year in particular, we may have some bigger gaps. So we'll keep an eye on how all that goes. But summer school does produce opportunities for kids. And if it's done right, we get a little revenue for the district. We get our student count a little higher. So we'll pay close attention to that. But for me, if we get a little break in between, and if we could do it without masks, it would be, a better deal. It'll be hot in the summer, so we'll keep an eye on that. And that's all I have for my report.
All right, thanks, Bryce. Does anybody have any questions? Doesn't look like it. Then we're on to policy development and review. And as part of this agenda item, did we have a policy committee meeting last week?
Well, we had it in December. We probably had it the week after the board meeting, I think.
Okay.
And we had 3 people, and myself, Barb, and Steve, who is a policy consultant from Neola. So we went over these one by one, the ones that are, if you click on the link, we reviewed all these policies, went through them, and just to kind of review how this works again, is Neola has sample policy language that has been put in there by Wisconsin law firms throughout the state. Neola's in several states, but for Wisconsin, they use the Wisconsin law firms use Davis and Kilthau, a little bit of Orman and Clark in there. So they're using Wisconsin law, and they have sample policies. But we are free to use our own policies if we wish. I mean, we're totally in the driver's seat on that. Also, there's options in these policies, and we can choose certain options and combinations of things in there. So there's a lot of guidance, but we still are free to basically call the shots. And then there's a lot of things, as certain things change, they just tweak. There's a lot of these, if you scroll down, a lot of these are revised. So there are current policies that you went in the summer, and then there are already some revisions on there. Then once in a while you'll see one that'll say new. You know, one of the new ones is unmanned aircraft policy, basically to cover drones. There's just, as things come up, we stay current on that. And generally there's 2 updates normally in a year. Now there might be some in between because of COVID and a few things this year, but how it has worked in the past, and I've had experience using this in the past, is twice a year, the consultant comes out, meets with the committee, and you go through all the updates. Some are just minor and some are major, but after you do that and have your readings and you're updated, you know, you're current again, but things change. If you didn't do it this way, I don't know how you'd ever stay caught up. Plus you'd spend a ton of time on this. So there weren't any real major changes, different things, just about 3 or 4 new policies. And those are all were sent out, I believe, electronically. The drafts were. It takes a long time to read through them. So I like it when the board, at least the board committee, can meet with myself and ask the consultant questions and get him to clarify the answers. And we have a good one with Steve, the former superintendent from Adams Friendship. So we're asking for first reading to be approved on these policies, and then there'll be another reading in February.
Bryce, all I can say or I can add is, the process we went through with Steve. I mean, the service we're paying for, they're on top of stuff. Night and day difference from where we've been in the past. They're very thorough. They recommend things that tell you things that are required. So, I think it's a good process. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, another districts I've been before we had this, and you've been there too, is like every board meeting you're reading policies, you're trying to craft a policy or wordsmith it, and then it's 1 or 2 policies a meeting and you never can get caught up. So this will come through about twice a year with several policies, and we'll have a chance to pick and choose how we want to customize the templates. And sometimes I ask the guy, do we need this? I don't want to have policies if we don't really need them. And I kind of argue a little bit, is like, just because it's a law, do we really have to have a policy? Because if you have a policy, however the policy is laid out, you have to follow it, and these are soon to get linked on our website. So basically we're putting the policies out to the public, so that's another level of accountability. So I don't want anything in there that we really, either if we're not going to follow it or we can't follow it, let's not put it in policy. So I try to stall that off if I can. But sometimes they'll say, well, you want this, or you need it for this reason, and sometimes you want, maybe a detailed policy on certain things, like harassment, your complaint procedure, sexual harassment, having medical leave, then you just follow the steps in the policy. It's very helpful, but I like, because you can search it as a search engine. When something comes up, you can search and start looking at policies before you start making too many decisions, to make sure you don't have to back off of what you just told somebody, how you're gonna handle a situation.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading.
I'll second. This is Greg.
All right, we got a motion by Esser and a second by Biba to approve the first reading of the policy revisions presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Then we're on to new business, and the first item is setting the 2021-22 open enrollment limits.
So we want to do what we've done in the past here, and there's a grid that will show the capacities for regular ed and special ed by grade level. So this will change throughout the year, but if somebody open enrolls in these areas, we can turn them away, because if we're at capacity, we don't have to allow them to come in. Now, if people move in, of course, we will take them, and the law requires you can't say, you can move in, but this one of your children, we're at capacity, so I mean, it wouldn't make much sense, so. The recommendation is to use the same method as before, and use these capacities that have been determined, and I know Lindsay Jackson had input on special ed capacity, and this will look different in the fall, but we keep, this is like a live document.
So on this one, Bryce, the regular ed spaces available for first grade, it has 0 on it. Is that the class we were talking about splitting possibly?
Yes.
So would we want to have that at 0 if we were gonna split that and possibly allow more?
Well, I think if that's done, then we would
Change it.
we'd have to change that capacity.
Okay. So you said this is asking for approval now, but it can be changed as we go along here?
Well, we could change things for capacity changes, but we can't change. I mean, you're setting it up in January. You can't reset it. That's why we're doing it now. It has to be done this month.
So the only downside would be potentially turning people away from open enrollment
If we had 2 sections.
if we had 2 sections where we might have more space available.
Well, why don't we change first grade to a higher number and approve it that way. We have to do it, probably have to do it tonight, though I don't think, after January, you can't change it, so you could say, like something like 40 for first grade or something like that. And that would be 2 sections of 20. Or 40, 45, 50. Yeah,
I guess I'm not saying we have to change it, I'm just asking if that's gonna potentially limit us if we're thinking about splitting that class.
it would. So in the 7th grade here, it's 50. And in 8th grade, it's 50. Is that because we have teachers in both sections? We have a couple sections of that.
So I
So
would move that we do the same thing with that class.
if we're pretty sure, if we're going to do it, if we do 2 sections of first grade, then we should set that at 50 also, that'd be consistent. So you maybe approve it with that change in there.
And then for spec ed spaces for freshmen next year, you're actually -1.
Yeah, and that's probably because, again, your ones that are in district, you want to service them.
I guess, does anybody
So
else have
we're
any
going to
other comments
increase-
on? Oh, go ahead, Katrina.
Sorry. So we're going to increase the allowed enrollment for first grade. Because if we're going to hire a second teacher, even if we get extra enrollment, it's only going to benefit. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it'd be, so right now we have 1 teacher well, we don't want to go over 25, and we've got 27 for next year. So if we if we have 2 teachers, and we had, we got quite a lot of room to play with before we get up to 25 per teacher. If you look down that column, that's kind of what we went with, is 25 in a section is the most, so 25 per teacher. In the grades where it says 50, there's 2 teachers per grade level, where the classes are divided
Already.
into 2. Yes.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure first grade was covered. Thanks. So do you need an approval here from a board member?
Yes.
I make a
Yes.
motion to approve from Shimmick.
We'd approve it with that correction.
Yeah. And Katrina, that's approving it with the additional students for first grade.
Yes, please. That is exactly what I would like to do.
Go ahead.
I'll second it.
So a motion by Shimmick and a second by Esser to approve the 2021-22 open enrollment space availability as presented with a change to first grade, bumping the regular ed capacity up to 50. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item here is the 2021-2022 calendar.
You should be able to link up to that. Josh surveyed the staff, met with the staff. They would rather have Wednesday late starts. That's one of the differences in the calendar this year. And if we do that, we'll probably allow, won't be the full Cardinal Club, 5 days a week. I think we talked about on those days, students would come at 10 o'clock if parents needed some daycare help. We have the teacher aides, or we could have some teacher aides here. So we'd accommodate that, I think is what we talked about. So that's a major change. And then I know Josh and Barb worked on it a lot more than I did. There's professional days and in-service days and things scattered throughout here. We got the starting and ending days. anything more significant than that, moving the,
Yeah, there's a couple things, as we've done in the past, we've moved our professional days and taken days during the school year, moved them to either the beginning of the school year or the end of the school year, just to do a wrap up and then a prep for the next year. So Barbie went in and she numbered those days for you. So Barbie, could you point out those 2 days or those 4 days for them, please?
The one that's posted here, the one right now that currently says professional day number 1 on August 18th is actually going to be, is one that they're required to be here at the beginning of school for those 2 days. So the one that'll go out to staff will just say that they have a mandatory professional day on August 17th and 18th. And then the rest of them have been changed to professional days 1 through 4. So the wording on the bottom there in green, now will say the professional development days 1 through 4 will be moved to May 30th through June 3rd. So they will have those professional days on the calendar and be required to fulfill them in the summer after the school year is complete.
Right. And then we put those days in there. So for example, we have professional days throughout the school year that staff do not need to be here. We tried to do it again. We got the dates for state wrestling again and having that Friday as a professional day where staff and students would not have to be here. We moved that day to summer.
so does that mean they have an option? They could do the professional, they could still come in and do some professional time?
They could come in, but that would not be a day that they would count. They would still have to come in that summer professional that we have.
Okay.
So, all right. So if we do, for example, the state wrestling, I'm gonna knock on wood right now and predict that we're gonna have kids there. So instead of having to fight and kids that want to go watch those wrestlers and staff, we can just have that day, take it up in the summer or the fall before school, and have just a school out that day. So we're not fighting the people that want to go to the wrestling match. So it works out pretty slick.
What about state basketball?
We go to state
What-
basketball.
Girl, what's your prediction there?
We're gonna need that day too.
Just put that in there.
That's the day we just we get out of school regardless. See.
Oh, okay.
That's your snow day there, Bryce.
Okay. Got it. Gas leak.
Just a question I have is, so I see we're starting on August 24th, which is a Tuesday. Any reason why we're not starting on Monday, the 23rd?
That just worked out with the days. I think we did that this last year too. We had a work day to Monday to get ready, and then brought the kids in on a Tuesday. So just seemed to work out that way. No particular reason either way, Kenny. There's also a day. Did we put it before spring at the end of spring break? Barbie, we had to have extra day, so we put it on that Monday after spring break. There's one there too.
21st of March.
I was having a hard time pulling that document up. What's the last day of school, or when's graduation next year scheduled?
May 21st.
No,
Graduation May 21st.
yeah, that's not the last day of school.
Last day of school is the week after that.
May 26th.
May 26th is the last day, 21st is graduation.
Yeah.
Got it, thank you.
So, question. I know that the unknowns are still there, so do we think that we'll still be wearing masks in August of next year or of this year?
My estimation and goal, knock on wood, is that we will not be. It's a good question. If that is the case where we have a pandemic still in progress this fall, then we're gonna look at something like we did this year again. Right now, our plan is to go back to an 8-hour schedule, go back to our late start Wednesdays. And then not have I still like to put in a digital day, like maybe once a month, but right now. But if it's still a pandemic, I think we need to look at and put a calendar together like we had this year and go with the block again.
Okay.
So we'll have that ready if obviously it comes to that.
With that being said, Josh, have students, or not students, but have teachers said that whether they like the hourly schedule or block schedule better?
It was actually surprising how close to 50-50 it was, for our middle and high school, either way. It's a majority, but not a big majority, want to go back to the 8 hour. Obviously, shop loves the block. It works great. You don't have to get something started and clean up right away. But, math classes, for example, English classes, that block is really, trying to get 2 lessons done in an upper math class in a day and then not have it for a day. So for example, if you have class on a Thursday, it's an A day, you don't have that class till Monday. That's a lot of time in between, and it just, band's another one that's really tough on band. And, some are either way, they can make it work. But for the most part, I thought it'd be a bigger majority than it was. It is a majority, but want to go back to the block, or I'm sorry, to the 8 hour day.
Is it a matter of, do teachers need some in-servicing on how to teach in a block schedule or block, an hour and a half block of time?
Oh yeah, I think training on that is helpful. How you can, break it up and get students more engaged where you're not, doing one thing the entire time, where in 45 minutes you can make it work, where 90 minutes it's tough. So, you teach for 20, give them an activity, give them some homework, give them, something, group work, whatever, and then go back and do again. So it's definitely something that, that's why the closer we got to, till now, halfway through the year, they are getting more comfortable with it. Beginning of this, God, I just can't do this. It's not working. But now we've done it long enough. They're getting more in tune with it. The majority of students, it sounds to me like, don't like it, depending on what classes they're into. So, it's a have and a have not, I guess.
I was just curious because I've heard, talking to some of the kids, some like it, some don't like it, but I didn't know what the teachers' thoughts were, so. I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 calendar.
I'll second. Mitchell.
A motion by Esser and a second by Mitchell to approve the 21-22 calendar as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Greg, do you need to get going?
Yes, I was just gonna type something in. I do have to take off here. Thanks for reminding me, Mike. Man, I would have forgot. I thought I still had a few minutes. I was gonna get a message ready to say goodbye, but so yes, goodbye. I'll see you next time.
See you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks. Yep.
All right, next item then is approving alternate open enrollment applications.
I think we have 2 in and 2 out. I think the 2 in, people that move into our district were never here and they sign up to a virtual school up north, or a virtual school, doesn't matter. So actually, how that works is they're open and rolled out, but they've never been here. So we get about 1/3 of the money. The virtual school gets about 2/3. So it looks bad on the balance, ins and outs, but actually it just gives us a little bit more revenue. We don't really do anything with those students the way the law is now. And then the 2 that open enrolled in, obviously we get, a little more revenue with that. And it works out if you don't have to increase your staffing. That's a good thing also for the budget. So both in and out actually this time helped us.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Finish.
All right, we have a motion by Mitchell and a second by Benish to approve the alternate open enrollment applications. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Then we're on to personnel items, and the first item is the middle school girls basketball coach contracts.
And we have 2 coaching contracts, 2 new coaches issued on middle school girls. I'd like to recommend Monica Schwartzoff, our middle school teacher, helping us out, and her assistant would be Jessica Kasharek. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Jake Carroll will be a volunteer, but he's already on staff, so we don't need to approve that one.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
A motion by Esser and a second by Drury to approve the middle school girls basketball coaching contracts. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is review of employee leave policies.
So the extra additional COVID leave for employees expired December 31st. And what that's kind of created, there's nothing in there now, so what that's created this situation where some people may have either been quarantined or had to stay home for reasons of being exposed or close contact and receive extra leave days. And now if you got something in February or March, your employee, you wouldn't get anything extra. And so what I think that's going to create a little bit of unrest. I mean, there's nothing the employees can do about it, and I think maybe some companies and some places just leave it at that. But to me, it's a chance. If we add this language, what it's doing is just restoring that the part for the 80 hours of leave, which is 10 extra leave days, that would expire, and it would be off the table, at the end of June this year. But to me, that makes it equitable for all of the employees. There's a chance to build a little goodwill and show the employees that we are looking out for them. We hope it doesn't become a large financial burden. It also has language in here that says that I can take this away. It's in my discretion if we want to cancel this policy. It also says that if the government comes up with a new policy, provide some kind of similarly, that this policy would be null and void, we go with the new policy. So it's an attempt to kind of treat employees fairly and not let them fall victim to you got quarantine or you got COVID, but you got it in the wrong semester, so you don't get any extra leave time and you have to either burn up your days. So this was run through Boardman and Clark, and Brian Goodman was the attorney, but he's drafted several languages like this for lots of schools, and he just had to compare it to our handbook and make sure he had those things covered. The things that are in yellow were things he just wanted me to make sure I pointed out. The bottom one, it's saying that if you're caring for another individual who has a close contact, so you're doing it, taking care of one of your kids or something, that money is paid at 2/3, 66%. So it's basically the law, except we're not doing the 10 extra weeks. We're not expanding that part. It's just the 80 hours. You say 10 days or 80 hours. And the other part, number 2 of that, was highlighted in yellow. It's both if you're isolated, quarantined, either related to COVID-19 or if you were a close contact. It's defining that.
Shimmick here, I make a motion to approve.
I second. Punish.
All right, we have a motion by Schimick and a second by Benish to approve the temporary COVID-19 leave program. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. And then the next one is district administrator's contract.
So this is a contract for me to go another year and had Eileen Brownlee, our attorney, make the changes. So basically change the dates. This contract will run July 1st, 2021, and then June 30th, 2022. We kept salary. We kept the salary the same as it is this year, and then it put in there that it will be renegotiated at a later date. We usually give raises or adjustments in most districts in May or June, and some of that has to do with you know a little bit more about the next year's budget. Sometimes you don't. So that is something she added. Then at the very end, on the second page, the last thing says a contract contains the entire agreement between the parties and supersedes all prior negotiations. So it's saying that this, it's another one-year contract, and otherwise all the benefits and everything the same as they are now. So if we agree to that, then I would be finish this year, do another year, and go year by year is what I would like to do.
Schimick here, I make a motion to approve the district administration.
Hey Katrina, Brent beat you to that already, so would you be willing to second his motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Drury and a second by Schimick to approve the district administrator contract for 21-22. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Items for signature. Somebody have a folder that's got, what was that? Thanks, Barb. Dates for the next board meeting and any committee meetings that we may need between now and then.
Do need a B&G, Mike, if we could.
Okay. So the next regular board meeting would be February 10th at 6 o'clock. And then building and grounds, do you have a date you're thinking about there, Josh?
So I'd like to get it before the next board meeting. I will not make the next board meeting. I have a all conference meeting that night, but what's the week before that look like for everybody?
Wednesday's still a good night.
So you're February 3rd?
Yeah.
I was fine with that.
Can we go at 5:30, February 3rd? Does that work with you, Mr. Burt?
Yes.
Brent?
Yep.
And who's the, is it is you, Mike?
Yep, I think so.
5:30 it is.
Should get us through another month here then. All right,
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
motion by Drury and a second by Esser to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you guys for joining us.
Have a good night.
Bradley, can you, end the meeting, please? Recording?
I just texted him. He said okay. He said okay.
Alright, so it should be shorter.
Down shortly. What's this? I'll have to start it and sign it. Also.
And put a thermal switch in my dryer. Thermal fuse.
I'm very
Straight
excited,
apart.
I keep working on one,
Is it
so
an AK?
I have those for
Do it?
myself and
Does it have a lower panel?
Jessica.
Take off?
Yeah.
And the vouchers,
Took another little cover thing off. So look on YouTube. I think what it is, I could have switched the doors and I didn't. So, I on one side of the vents over here, and so I got one of those flat things in the back. That goes to, and then it runs about 15 feet. I think I have too many corners and not too much length.
There was something.
Too much